What's up guys, I'm Mr. Audio, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. So I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time now. I just didn't have the right example to show you guys until now. See, a lot of artists will come to me with vocals and a stereo 2 track. A stereo 2 track that they don't own the rights to. In other words, they ripped this off of YouTube or somewhere similar. And that's fine. If they want me to mix the record, I will. It's basically just a vocal production, well, treating any frequency masking that might be going on, if any. But there are some artists that really want to retain the copyrights to their music. And see, I offer this service where they can hire me to remake the beat. What's the phrase? Good artists create, great artists steal? Well, technically it's not stealing, but you get the idea. See, when the artist was writing the song, they were feeling a vibe. I want to capture that vibe when I'm remaking the beat. So how does it work? So basically, you have to, by ear, hear all of the different elements. Once you're able to hear all the different elements, you have to recreate them in MIDI form. Now, I like to forget about the drums until last, because the drums really emphasize everything else that's going on. So you can kind of forget about the drums till later. We'll put a pin in that, and we'll get back to that in a minute. So once you have all of the parts down in MIDI form, you can put them to different elements to see how you can reimagine this beat and what you might want to do with it. Sometimes you want to build something very similar, and that's exactly the example I have for you today, but we'll get to that in a minute. And other times, you'll want it to be completely different, just something that had the same vibe. So, how do you do this? How do you steal without actually stealing? Well, there's a few rules. In copyright law, you can use the same chord progression, but you have to change the voice leading. Now, what is voice leading? Voice leading is basically the order in which you play the notes in that chord. So let's just say you're playing them in order, 1, 3, and 5. That's a regular diatonic chord. Now, if all of the chords are playing a 1, 3, 5 pattern, then you could change a couple of them to be either a first inversion or a second inversion. Now, what are those? A first inversion is where the notes are organized like this. 3 comes first, then 5, then a 1. And a second inversion is basically 5, 1, and then 3. You change a couple of these chords in the chord progression to different inversions, and you've changed your voice leading. It definitely gives the track a whole different vibe, so you want to experiment around with different instruments to see what's best for that part. Now let's get to the bass line, because you can use the same chords, you can use the same bass notes, but you'll have to change the groove and rhythm of them a little bit. I would definitely make the drums a little bit different, but you can basically copy them verbatim if you're using different drum sounds. It's just a pattern in reality. But, make it according to the vocals. Like maybe it needs an extra kick here or an extra snare there or a little fill. You know what I mean? Those little things actually matter when making a track. So now let's talk about melodies. Melodies are the tricky part. You actually have to re-melodicize the whole track. You have to take out everything about the melody that sounds like the melody and change it. You can use a lot of the same notes because, again, you're playing the same chord progression with different voice leading, so the notes that you're able to play are actually limited to probably the notes that the first melody is playing. But you can change the order of them, and you can change the length and timing of these notes and make a whole different melody. See, you can't just steal melodies. Vanilla Ice found that out. So let me give you a little backstory. When I first had to do this for an artist, it was Grip, all right? Basically, the producer pulled the track last minute after we already had the mix and everything done. So Grip came to me and asked, he's like, hey, can you remake the beat? I said, I don't know, I could try. So I ended up talking to a copyright lawyer and a music theory professor to basically make this my first go at it. And I did an amazing job. Boy, did I outdo myself. And with my success at this task, most of the artists that actually pay me to do this just trust me to go with my gut on this. They trust me to just create the beat however I see fit around their vocals. They had that vibe, I'm going to capture that vibe and give them a nice beat that they can own the rights to, that we own the rights to. Obviously, if I'm producing, I'm going to have some rights to it too, because I wrote the music. So anyway, let's get to the example I'm going to show you. I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on how I got to this example. So anyway, I make electronic music. I'm sure if you've watched any of my lives, you'll see a lot of electronic music that I'm making at the moment. And in doing so, I'm always looking for inspiration. And Splice is a great resource for sounds and even some inspiration at times. See, Splice has a lot of sample packs. And in some of these sample packs, there are things called song starters. Basically melodies, chords, and bass lines. So you can just put them in your song and get an idea and build from there. Now, I've used song starters once or twice. This is like the third time I've used a song starter. Have I ever left a song starter in the track? No, I've never left one in the track as a whole. I thought I might in this track, but then I decided, you know what, let's give it a go at sample recreating this, and that's what that skill is actually called. It's called sample recreation. I surprised myself again. I made something really full and bigger than the original song starter itself. So now you guys get the benefit of actually getting to see this on a video and learn how I sample recreate all of my beats. Let's get into the example. All right, so I'm going to play you the song starter without any processing that I did so you can see what I was working with. Then I'll put the processing on. Then I'll describe to you what I'm hearing in the types of elements and what we need to get down in MIDI form. So here's a song starter with no processing. As you can see, there's some low end lacking. Let's add the processing now. As you can see with that low end there, that 11 dB shelf is really creating some nice low end vibes. Now, let's dissect the elements inside of this song starter so we know what we have to create. All right, so first of all, I'm going to draw your attention not to the melody, to the counter melody, which is just one note being played in a rhythmic pattern. Listen. All right, now we have this melody that goes or something similar. It gets a little busy at the end, and we're going to change some of that. We're going to simplify it. So anyway, now we've got this long bass note. Let's listen again. There's really only 3 bass notes, but I kind of want a leading note up into that bass note, so we're going to recreate something slightly different, all right? Anyway, let's get into it. Also, I want to make note that I want to add some sort of drums or impact sounds to this. So that's what I'm looking for as well, too. So now, let's get that little beeping sound out of the way that I heard that first counter melody. So now I'm going to solo the song starter, and then I'm going to switch to that melody that you just heard so you can kind of compare the two melodies side by side. As you can see, I changed the rhythm a little bit because I've added impacts to this. Now, we're going to get to that in a second. Let's dissect the melody first because we are going to go in the order that we heard them in, all right? So now let's do the melody. It goes, and all these 3 sounds make up that melody. So let's just play them all together, and then we'll dissect each sound. See, right here it goes, do-do-do-do, and I thought that was too busy. And here, we'll listen to that again, right here. It's just so busy right there. And if there's nothing going on, I'm okay with that it being busy there. But we're going to add so much harmonics here that we got too much information happening right there. It's not going to sound good. So we have 3 elements that make up the top end melody portion. We have a lower octave synth portion. There's a higher octave synth portion. And then there's this piano bell sound that's adding some like openness. And again, all 3 of the sounds sound like this. So now we have the 2 melodies out of the way. There's just this bass note that is really long and kind of moving in the high end. So I imagine I'm going to have to create a bunch of different bass synth sounds that would kind of do the trick. Now remember, I want some high end movement, and that's going to be kind of difficult. Let's see what I got for the bass, and then we'll dissect it. So as you can see, you can hear that low end moving, that high end moving. It's just got a bunch of moving parts, but all in the same notes. We're just kind of swishing filters in and out, and that high end energy and those harmonics. I really wanted it to be moving, so let's dissect each part. So this is the high end right here. There's this element, and then there's this element, which has some bass elements to it, but there's a random high part about it. Listen. Now all together it sounds like this. As you can see, those high-end elements really add a lot of movement to it and makes it sound the way it does. Now let's check out the bassier elements to that sound. So we have this, I think I made both these two sounds from Sublab. Obviously, you could see I cut the bass from that. It's got more mid-range than anything. And now this one's carrying the weight of the bass. I'm pretty sure it's just like a simple respace with a bunch of stereo information on it. Anyway, all of that makes up the low end part. Now, we have to add those impacts that I wanted to make it really sound good, because without it, it sounds like this. As you can see, it's just missing something. I feel like there needs to be some hard-hitting stuff happening right there. So I found some impact sounds, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I took a kick, I threw it in some reverb, and it sounds like this. I did that to a snare, and then I found an impact sound on Splice, which sounds more like a gunshot, but I like it, so I kept it in there. So all those sound like this together. A really nice impact sound. Now we get to the cool part. Let's put it all together. And you know what? For funsies, let's listen to the masters of the two. The one with the song starter and the one that I made to replace the song starter. All right? We're going to side by side compare them together. All right, so here's the one with the song starter. And now here's the one I remade. As you can see, there's little elements that we changed, but the majority of it is pretty close, right? So anyway, I wanted to show you guys how to actually do sample recreation. This is a good example of it, but I do a little bit more. I go kind of above and beyond so we can retain the rights to what we have. But this is a good skill for people that are looking to produce for labels as like an in-house producer. They need to be really good at sample recreation, taking something that somebody made and somebody rapped over or someone sang over, and they need to take and decipher that and make all of those elements. That's what sample recreation is really all about. I do something a little different. I get to reimagine the beat and remake it, but I still do some sample recreation like I did here. So anyway, that's the video, guys. I hope you like it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Mr. Audio, out.